twiddling their thumbs and counting the seconds until your presentation is over. Apparently, experienced lecturers struggle to give talks that don't end up being like complete torture for the audience, and God help the audience of an inexperienced lecturer. So welcome to my first ever physics talk. I hope you guys enjoy. The project I worked on with Johnny this summer involved in-body astrophysical simulations. I'm going to assume that at least some of you in the audience aren't completely familiar with this terminology, so I'll just give you a brief rundown. The N stands for some very large number, and the word body is used to indicate some unit of matter, such as a particle. In-body simulations are simulations of the motion of a large amount of matter under the influence of some force. And in the astrophysical case, that would be the gravitational force between the masses. And I think I should just mention really quickly that the image on this slide is actually called a cosmological in-body simulation, which is a simulation of all of the cosmos, or like the whole universe, as opposed to the single galaxy simulations that I worked on this summer. What you see here is usually called the cosmic web, and a little fun fact about that is that the cosmic structure in this picture was kind of demonstrated observationally in a paper by Margaret Geller in 1987, which was pretty significantly like before these simulations were actually taking place. And for those of you who are curious about cosmological simulations, I just refer you to Becca Cummings' 2020 thesis. So how do you do an in-body simulation? Well, on the most basic level, all you need is three things. First, and probably the hardest to get your hands on, is a working in-body code, which is a program that will run your simulation. For this project, we used a code called Changa, which is this clever little acronym for Charm In-Body Gravity Solver. Now, don't worry too much about the word charm at the beginning there, because that's a bit technical and not really relevant to understanding the research. Just know that Changa runs in-body simulations with gravitational force, basically. The next thing that you need is an initial conditions file, which in our case were generated using a Python package called PyICs. The initial condition file tells you, or tells the in-body code rather, what the initial position and momentum is for all matter in the simulation. And the last thing you need is a parameter file, which contains a bunch of other information that's important for running the simulation, like the number of particles involved. So why do we use in-body codes? Well, here's Newton's law of gravitation. Most people here probably applied this guy to a two-body system. That's easy enough. The thing is that the in-body problem has a really, really bad scaling issue. The textbook Galactic Dynamics by Benny and Tremaine actually gives a function for the minimum number of force calculations required for an in-body system. That's this guy right here. And it just so happens that if you have a system with n equals to 1,000, you'd have to apply Newton's law of gravitation about 500,000 times if you wanted to solve it by hand. Now keep in mind that 1,000 particles is a pretty small simulation. I ran one this summer that had n equal to 4 million. And that's why we like to use computers for this kind of stuff, because you don't want to do that by hand. So performing all this computation takes up a lot of time and processing power. So we must have a pretty good reason to be doing all these simulations, right? Well, yeah, one big reason is the promise of another avenue for refining our theoretical understanding of the universe. Simulation results can be compared against observational data in the hopes of shedding a little bit of light on some of the mysteries that persist in astrophysics. This goal is definitely super exciting, but another really important reason that we do astrophysical simulations is to just improve our in-body codes. And that kind of makes sense because we definitely want to make sure that our simulations are giving us results that are at least somewhat feasible if we expect them to help us improve our understanding of the universe. So Johnny's been involved in a project called Agora for a number of years. Agora, in this case, standing for Assembling Galaxies of Resolved Anatomy. And one of Agora's main goals is to compare simulations from many different types of in-body codes with the intention of improving their consistency and hopefully their realism. And I believe Will is going to talk a little bit more about that project next week, so I'll try not to spoil anything else. Okay, so we've gone over what in-body simulations are and why and how we do them. But how do you tell if what you get is even interesting? For reference, here are two blobular images that I got from some of my less successful simulations. And I guess you could say they're kind of interesting. I was talking to Johnny and Beckett, and they made me appreciate this a little bit more. What we have here in these images is non-homogeneity. So all the matter isn't like totally evenly spread out. There are some like blobs, and that's pretty exciting, but it's like not the most exciting. For instance, there's nothing really super distinctly galactic about them, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So let's talk about some galactic features. Here's a beautiful image of the galaxy NGC 1300 from NASA, and I definitely say this guy is pretty interesting. NGC 1300 is what we call a barred spiral galaxy. That's because it has some very nice galactic features, a central bar, and 2 spiral arms. It also has a galactic bulge, but that's like slightly more common among galaxies. So the spiral arms are significant because they're thought to be the sites of ongoing star formation. As you move away from the arms in the galaxy, you tend to find increasing numbers of older stars. And that kind of suggests that stars are born in the arms and then they drift out slowly as they age. The significance of the bar is a little bit more mysterious and isn't like fully understood in modern astrophysics. It's generally thought to be related to the dark matter present in the galaxy, hence the uncertainty. But as you can see, there's definitely an elongated bar shape here, and that's where the terminology comes from. And the bulge is the region in the center of the galaxy with a high density of luminous matter. And sometimes if there's a black hole in there, you might find large quantities of star ingredients like shooting out of the galactic center, which is a pretty important part of the galactic life cycle. So NGC 1300 is definitely really cool, and I wanted to show you guys because it's a really great photo of a barred spiral, but there's actually a more well-known barred spiral that we don't have any photos of, and that's this one. This is an artistic depiction of the Milky Way galaxy, and it just so happens to be the galaxy where we all live. That's why we don't have any pictures of it, unfortunately, because we're kind of like stuck in it. But this artistic rendering is pretty cool because it's actually based on observational evidence. So now that we've talked about some cool features of galaxies, I feel like I'm ready to show you my results from the summer. Here's an image of a galaxy that I ended up getting out of Chang'e. And here you can see the spiral arms. And in the center, there's this elongated shape, which is a bar. And here's the original image, just so you can see those a little bit better. Okay, so I think my next slide is pretty cool, but it requires a little bit of explanation, so just bear with me here. So the way Chang'e works is you specify a time interval in the parameter file, and it'll spit out these snapshots of all the matter in the simulation at like a time. So what you end up with after running a simulation is a bunch of pictures evenly spaced in time. And that's where I got this image. But what you can also do with those pictures is string them together. So what I'm about to show you is a repeating GIF of the evolution of this galaxy. And the thing that's really cool about this GIF is that even though it's fairly quick, it actually takes place over a very, very large time scale. I checked the parameter file again before giving this talk, and it looks like the time step is set to about 6 million years. And Google seems to think that modern humans evolved around 200,000 years ago. So if we're going to believe that number, that means that you could fit all of human history into one of the frames of this GIF about 30 times. And that's what's really exciting about these N-body simulations. You could never, ever watch the process of galactic evolution take place in real time because of how long it takes. But these simulations allow us to get a glimpse into what that process might actually look like if you sped it up really, really fast. And yeah, that's my presentation. I guess I'll take questions now.
In your movie there, it looks like it explodes at the end. Is that accurate?
Possibly. I don't actually
So that's
know.
going back to the beginning, right, Lucas?
Well, that's the beginning.
Yeah, well, but it is like at the end you do kind of see the bar and the spirals become a little bit less distinct. It kind of seems to just like fade into the universe a little bit.
Well, what's this like circular thing shooting outwards? Is that the beginning?
So that's the beginning. So let me see if I can. So that actually